Recording in progress. Got it.
Recording in progress. Cool. All
It's
right.
giving me a warning.
What, what's the warning?
Warning is recording in progress.
Oh God, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Cool. So everyone, welcome back. This is part two of our little webcast webinar chat session with Gabby Spenst, who is on her way to the semifinals. Hopefully, getting past semifinals and onto the CrossFit Games. So that's exciting, Gabby.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the first time around, you and I were kind of chatted about just kind of introduction, back and forth about who you are, what you're up to,
Mm-hmm.
and all that good stuff. And this time around, I thought, hey, why don't we talk about nutrition? To compete at your level and to get to that level, it doesn't happen by accident. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And
Mm-hmm.
you and I kind of chatted about it. I thought, hey, wouldn't nutrition be a great next topic? And
Yeah.
kind of see where that goes and let people know what it takes, on a daily basis to kind of fuel the body to train at that level to get to the next level. So, what is it like? So when you started out in CrossFit, you probably didn't know much about nutrition, right? Like I know when I started out, I didn't know anything. I just showed up and I did the workout of the day and I didn't know anything. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So is that kind of how you found it was when you started?
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't know very much. Like I knew kind of the basic things, but definitely did not look very far into it at all.
So what were you, so, young Gabby, she shows up at the CrossFit gym. She doesn't have a clue what she's doing. What's she eating in a day? What are you doing? Because I
Oh,
know the
I
other day,
loved
I know the other day you were talking about Popeye's chicken. So
yeah. I almost got that today, but I went Subway instead. No, I ate a lot of just like in high school and everything. I was like huge into pasta, like anything with just like carbs. That was like all I ate. I never thought about protein or anything like that, which it wasn't like horrible because I was always doing something. So like ravioli was my go-to. I remember like going to Tim Hortons after like basketball all the time. I would get like two muffins plus like a sandwich and like yeah, just
yeah.
not, you know.
So when was it? So when you're starting out, you're kind of eating like every other kid does. You know what I mean? You're hitting, carb loading like
Yeah,
crazy. Really no protein. Don't really care about how much fat content you got going on. So
yeah.
when was it when you kind of came to the realization it's like, hey, I need to like kind of pay attention to what I'm putting in my body because this actually does
Mhm.
affect how I train and how I recover and how I feel in the times in between. So when was it or what was it that kind of led you to check into your nutrition?
It was kind of a couple years into CrossFit, I would say. I was getting more into it, and I kind of started realizing, like, man, I'm eating a lot. And for CrossFit, it's like I wanted to get better at like the running and the kind of endurance part of it. And because I was like pretty strong, but I felt like super, I don't know. I just knew that I could make improvements, and I think for me, that would go to dialing in my nutrition. It was always something that I was kind of, like, interested in, and
Mhm.
so I think learning more about it just helped me so much, like
Yeah.
and I got to kind of a overly obsessive part of it, like, I went through kind of a phase where I almost cared too much what I ate, and I got, like it drove me kind of crazy, I think, to a certain degree.
Yep.
Um, which I think is kind of fair. I think a lot that happens to a lot of people. You kind of go through a crazy obsessive part of
Yeah.
it.
I agree. And it's funny, like obviously as a nutrition coach now and working with a lot of people, not just higher end athletes like yourself, but the everyday person.
Mm,
And there is definitely a obsession or compulsiveness about tracking food and weight on a scale. And it's crazy that people, like I'm a big believer in fueling yourself for performance or getting just through the day. But there are people that take it to the far end of the spectrum and it becomes an obsession and it's actually not good for their mental health. Did you
totally.
did you ever did you ever find like you started to go down that road? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
because I think that there's one thing like when you make decisions for yourself, you're like I'm going to eat healthier, and sometimes that means if you're getting together for family dinners. Like maybe, yeah, you'll eat something a little different than anybody else. But for me, that was like happening all the time. Like I would never part like meal like when the whole family was over, I was just like always so concerned about being on. that I didn't allow myself to, like, enjoy food.
Yeah,
And it was I actually went through a phase. I remember, like, I would deprive myself of, like, if we had dessert at the table, I wouldn't have it. And then I found myself later, I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna have, like, a little bite." And then I just, like, since I
consume.
myself so much, I just, like, went crazy when
Yeah,
nobody's looking, right?
yeah, yeah,
So it was, like, unhealthy, like, holding myself back and, like, restricting myself to, like, a crazy degree, you know, and being so obsessive with it that it
yeah.
kind of snowballed sometimes.
That's crazy. So I kind of so with the clients that I work with and stuff like that, and you and I kind of quasi work together. But I really push the 80-20 rule. And I don't know if everyone knows what that is, but it's like, listen, I just need you to be diligent 80% of the time. If
Mhm.
you give me 80%, the other 20% is you want to have a dessert, you want to go to Dairy Queen, I don't know, you want to smash a sleeve of Oreos. Like I don't care. You know what I mean? Like we have to be able to treat ourselves as we go
Yeah,
through this training and fueling ourselves because and you just hit the nail on the head to try to be 100% all the time. It's not sustainable, right? And
totally.
then you end up crashing. And yeah, I think you actually end up going 5 steps backwards instead of trying to take yourself 5 steps forward. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it all comes down basically to your mentality, I think, is like what's your outlook on food? Um, because it's like, yeah, you should enjoy your food sometimes, but once you start making those mindset shifts, like as in, I expect this out of my body every single day, it's gonna make you want to give your body more of the good things. So I think that like like as soon as I kind of started to understand that, the less I even wanted to have, a lot of dessert and stuff like that. It's like I know how good my body feels when I'm fueling it properly and I'm putting good food in. I don't like there's not a very big part of me that wants to, put a whole bunch of junk into it because
Mm.
I'm expecting so much out of it. So, I totally agree with the 80-20 rule. I think it like if you can figure that out for yourself and like find something that has to be sustainable, right? Because you don't want to just behave or like do something for 6 months and then go back to like what it was. It's like you want this to be a lifetime thing. So it's figuring out how to uh, get a healthy relationship with food. Cause
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, 100%. And that's what it comes down to is this relationship with food. And I don't really, it doesn't matter if you're a high end athlete like yourself or like, you know, the soccer mom who's just trying to lose a couple pounds or the
mhm,
busy dad who's trying to run his kids all over the place. Like it has to be sustainable. And I think that's exactly the right word to use there. So
yeah,
yeah, I totally agree. And I'm glad we're on the same page with that stuff. So as you go through and you're doing your training throughout the year, do you kind of change your diet up? Like you have an on season and off season. So are you constantly consuming the same amount of food? Does it dial back at some points? Do you ramp it up at others?
yeah. Definitely. Right now, kind of ramping it up a little bit just because we are doing so much training. So, like today, like I said, I was gonna go to Popeyes later on, but my uncle, I wanted to go to Subway, so I was like, you know what, that's perfect. So, like going there and just like trying to get kind of a lot of food and especially like warmer days are coming. Like yesterday, I know I didn't eat as much as I should have just because I don't feel that hungry when it's hot out. So like you have to really be on eating a lot of food at this time of the year and like we've talked about with like my coaches, like sometimes you gotta eat like a little bit of more of the dirty food or whatever, like the Popeyes chicken just to get
Yeah.
enough in. So definitely this time of the year I'm eating a lot more and then when I'm not doing as much training, the carbs will go down a decent
So
amount.
so what
Eating
do you So what do you say to someone who's like, because I find you to be the prototypical kind of female CrossFit athlete. You're very fit. You got muscle definition and stuff like that. How do you explain to the common person who's starting CrossFit? It's like, hey, I got here by eating Popeye's chicken.
I
Do you
I
know what I
didn't
mean? Like,
do for me. That's like eating Popeyes and stuff like that. Like that was way out of my comfort zone. I was like afraid to do it.
okay, all right,
You-
because I
I
I get asked too, right? Like I'm not opposed to stopping at McDonald's and as a shift worker, as a firefighter, in the middle of the night if we're busy, and I haven't eaten, it's like, yeah, I do the 3 a.m. McDonald's drive-through, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And people are always like, well, Terry, like you're in pretty good shape for a guy turning 50. I'm like, yeah, I am, but I train hard and I allow myself to be able to burn all these calories, you know what I mean? It's not like I eat this food and then I don't do anything. Like I'm active, I'm still competitive. So I think we fall into the same boat that we can get away with things that maybe a person who works out maybe not to the intensity that we do, they can't get away with eating the foods like that.
yeah.
Yeah. So what's the plan? You're coming in. Semis is at the end of the month here, so you're ramping up. So what are you changing in your diet? You're eating a little bit more food now.
Mhm,
Let's walk people through that. Okay. So for maybe the average person that doesn't know, we have our macros. Okay. So we have protein, carbs, and fat.
mhm.
And most people probably don't pay attention to the macros. They certainly don't pay attention to micronutrients. So in your training regime leading up to the semifinals, we got 3 weeks to go, more or less. What are you changing? Are you taking in more protein? We definitely know you're taking in more carbs. Are you taking in more fats? Are you keeping the fats lower? Talk us through like kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm trying to I upped my protein intake a little bit just to try to help with recovery. That's another thing that my coach recommended to like eat a little bit more protein because I was eating like just a little over my body weight, but increase that a little bit. I'm trying to eat more a little bit more fats now as well, but most of it is just a lot more like carbs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you're doing the kind of dirty bulk, like you said, and you're taking in Subway. You know, what I mean,
So
not
I
ideal in some cases.
a time or two a week. So it's not like an everyday thing, but yeah, definitely trying to throw that in there, especially on like a day like today that's a recovery day, trying to like maybe increase my fat like a little bit more because that's like the hardest thing for me to eat during the week. It's super easy for me to eat a lot of protein because I love like chicken and eggs and all that kind of stuff. And then carbs are, pretty decent to eat too. So on
What's
days
your
like
what's your go-to carb? What's your go-to healthy carb? Are you a potato? Are you a rice? What are
oat,
you doing?
I love oatmeal. Love, love, love. And apples. Could eat
Yep.
apples all day.
It's
Um,
it's it's funny. So dealing with a lot of people, and it's like at the end of the day, they're like, "Oh, Terry, like I still have like I don't know 20, 30 grams of carbs, and I don't know what to do to get like that amount." I'm like, have some fruit.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It's like people. It's amazing that people don't understand the concept of like carbs and macros and stuff like that. And they it's an all or nothing for some people. It's like, well, if I eat a whole banana, I'll be over. It's like then eat half a banana.
yeah.
You know what? Have half
So
a scoop of protein.
fridge. Yeah,
Yeah, it's nuts. People really get fixated on like they have to eat a whole portion of something, or it doesn't work. It's like, well, no, like
yeah,
you cut your food up. That's what we're meant to do, right? So it's
yeah.
pretty funny.
Totally. That's the same thing of like going out for dinner, or it's like the mentality of like I have to eat everything that's on my plate, even though I'm so full, I don't want to waste it. But it's like, like if you eat it and you don't actually need it, that's also kind of like wasting it,
Totally.
too. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I, I, I don't know if I agree with the concept of force feeding. Do you know what
yeah,
I mean? Like, you get to the points, it's like when you feel full, we should kind of stop. And I mean, I
mhm,
guess there are situations where you're training for a specific thing, you do kind of need to carb load, and maybe you need to
yeah,
force yourself just a little bit more. But
a
the but
little,
the yeah, but the average person, right? The people that are going to watch this video and this interview, they don't really fall into that, right? So what's your advice for the average person who's doing CrossFit and trying to get in shape? Like,
yeah.
what's nutrition advice by Gabby to give to them?
Well, I would say like, yeah, learning to listen to your body because it will let you know when it's full. I think like with intuitive eating, like I would definitely say like, make sure you're having your meals, have like your protein, veggie, and some sort of complex carb on your plate, but like, try to really put an emphasis on getting a good protein, good vegetables in, and then, try to get good quality carbs in there like the protein will fill you up, and like just trying to make well balanced meals, take your time eating, listening to your body, and like when you feel full, okay, I'm just gonna stop. But yeah, putting an emphasis, like I would say, make like I say the proteins kind of the main event, and then focus on protein, veggies, and then carbs are kind of on the side for like the average person, I would say. I don't
Yeah.
know if that.
And no, no, that makes total sense. And then I always like to tell people like kind of make sure you have something, some sort of color in your meal. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So like I'm a big I love eggs too, egg whites. So I usually cut up like a bell pepper. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? I throw it in there with some spinach. So the the color that we put in our foods or sorry in our meals is kind of where we're getting our micronutrients from.
mhm,
So as long as people are still eating some color, they should be getting a well balanced diet, like you're saying. So part of your plate is a carb, is part of it is protein, and part is some sort of salad to kind
yeah,
of balance it out. So yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
yeah,
Um, so going into the semis here, talk to me about game day. Okay, you're going to show up. It's 3 days, 4 days, 3 days.
yeah.
Okay, so we got 3 days. You show up, you've carb loaded, you're going to
Mhm.
deload your training. Is it all or nothing when you're eating over those days? Like you're done competition on day one and you're starving. It's like I can eat whatever I want.
Yeah, you try to like in between just because I have my regular gym snacks that I've been eating throughout like training, so I'll probably eat the exact same thing and try to like yeah put those into my body in between events and stuff, and then morning and evening is kind of just whatever you can eat pretty much.
Yeah, perfect. And then obviously, you want I find like when I compete and you don't really want to eat a lot of foods that are going to be inflammatory to your system because you're trying to recover, right? You're trying to get recharged for day two and then day three. And the workouts that you're going to go through they're extremely taxing. You're burning way more calories than you probably ever would in a training session. So I
Mm,
think it's fair to say it's pretty important to get, post nutrition in between events as best you can.
yeah.
Yeah. And so what kind of snacks are you talking about? You mentioned your gym snacks. So what are your gym snacks? You're gonna say
Yeah,
like gummy bears or something.
I always have like Welch's fruit snacks are like a
Okay.
basic ones. I've been really into like the like Nutrigrain bars or like
Okay.
those big bars. Uncrustables. We don't have those in Canada, but they're
No.
like pre-made little like peanut butter and jam sandwiches. They're like this big. They're a circle. It's kind of like a hot pocket, but it's not hot. It's like a peanut butter and jam sandwich. It's like that, an RX bar, Rice Krispie squares, and I also have like I have like what's called Ignition. It's like basically a carb powder from First Form, and uh Formula One is like their protein powder as well. That's super fast digesting. So that's kind of my those are kind of that's all I eat at the gym
Awesome.
pretty much.
So actually, so I'm glad you mentioned something here and it just jogged my memory. So you did throw the company First Form,
Yeah.
right? So supplement company, we don't really deal with them here in Canada, which blows my mind. I'm not sure how they're not here in Canada yet.
There.
So what are you taking for supplementation? So I like to include supplementation in the nutrition talk because I think it's important, right?
Yeah.
We get our protein from some sort of shake usually, so it does fall into this conversation. So what do you take for supplementation? What are the ones you go to?
I do omega 3s. Obviously, it's pretty classic one. I do creatine, and then I
Mhm.
have like it's Optigreens, and there's a multi-factor as well, which is kind of just getting those multivitamins and the green powders,
Yep.
just kind of up like because I don't eat very many veggies during the day because like I don't eat any veggies at breakfast because it's hard for me to digest, and I don't really have like a solid lunch because I'm at the gym training, so it's usually snacks around that area. So I put an emphasis on like veggies at dinner time. So having that green drink earlier in the day just kind of helps me get um more veggies in. Super easy.
Yeah, I have a
And
similar thing that I take here. It's good, it's quick. Honestly, I was worried about taking it. I thought it was going to taste absolutely terrible. And it's amazing. Like the greens, I think when they first came out as a product, they tasted like I guess feet. I've never eaten feet, but I would imagine that's what they tasted like. But Now they make them, and it's like protein powders. They come in all these different flavors and stuff. And I had one that was like berry flavor, and I love it. I drink greens every day. I think it's great. What about pre-workout? Like I'm a big pre-workout person. Do you take anything?
Sometimes, depends on how much coffee I drink in the morning. But yeah, I'll probably do a pre-workout like a couple times a week. And then I also have a drink called Enduraformance. It has like electrolytes and stuff in it. It's just kind of something satisfying to drink at the gym because I always hated drinking stuff at the gym that wasn't water because I hated like the having something different in my throat. But this stuff, it's not super sweet
Yeah.
and it's like super easy to drink and it makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I find that's where a lot of people take their aminos is kind of that intra workout. I don't want to drink any more water. I'm looking for something, like I'm big on grape flavored stuff or fruit punch. And
Yeah.
do I really need to take BCAAs? Probably not. I have a diet very high in protein, so I'm kind of covered for
You're
aminos and stuff like that. But do I still drink it? Yeah, I like something kind of tasty when I work out. So
totally.
yeah. And then I was going to ask you something. Oh, so pre-workout. So, what's your thoughts on someone getting up? Like, I get up first thing in the morning and I get my first training session done. So basically, I get up and I slam some pre-workout and I get my first session done. Is that something you can do? Do you need to kind of get a meal in before you train, or?
Yeah, I definitely do unless it's like, just like like I could do a run or something like that's just long and endurance based, easy. I could do that without eating, but it's like as soon as it's like a high intensity, something like CrossFit or even like swimming, I can't do swimming without eating a little something because it just makes me feel so like I get so hungry when I swim. I don't know what it is about it. And then yeah, anything with like weightlifting, I just feel so like depleted if I don't have a little something in my stomach before.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I sometimes because of my job and stuff like that, I don't really have time to get up super early and make a meal and then eat it and then let it settle. So I kind of go for the fasted training in the morning. But you're 100% right. The cardio sessions are always not so bad, but lifting is it's like I have no business being in a gym trying to lift weights at like 5 in the morning with no
Yeah,
food in me. It's so defeating. But yeah, it's crazy. So and that just goes to the point we're talking about is like the proper fueling of your body. this
yeah,
is this is what we're talking about, right? It's getting the right foods in at the right time to have the right performance throughout the day. So yeah, it all ties in together. So when you get up in the morning, you have breakfast, how many meals in a day do you think you're having, or is it just constant snacks?
I'll have a solid breakfast, like a big breakfast before I go gym. I eat that like a couple hours before, and then I usually do workout. Like I do the class in the morning. I love it. We'll do another hour of training after, so then I'll have a snack. I'll kind of snack between however many hours I'm at the gym. And then once I get home here, I'll have basically what I had again for breakfast, just because it's super easy. I don't need to think about it. Let that sit, and then I'll eat dinner, and then I'll have another snack after dinner. So like super solid meals. Like I would say three, because kind of that it's kind of like lunch that meal that I eat when I get home, and then it's kind of like lunch and then dinner, sort of back to back.
Yeah, no, that makes sense with the amount you're training throughout the day. So post CrossFit life, you and I have talked about this. You and I chat pretty regularly, and then
Mhm.
nutrition coaching is something you want to get into and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So you and I have talked about maybe coming on with Silverback or me helping you get started with whatever it is that you want to do. So
Mm.
what is it like you want to take forward to people with nutrition? It's like Gabby's offering nutrition coaching. What is it you're offering them? What is it like you want to
Yeah.
help them with?
I want to help. So, like I talked a little bit about mindset before. For me, that's something I'm super passionate about is the mindset or the outlook that we have on food and like ourselves. So the way that I look at nutrition, again, is I'm kind of going over what I said a little bit more, but I'll talk I'll go through it again is like I see it as every single day, we expect so much out of our bodies, whether like even if you don't go training, like you still need your body to get up go to work. You're expecting it to carry you throughout the day. You want it to sleep at night. You want it, to function properly. So it kind of comes down to what are you putting into it to get out of it, sort of thing. It's like, I believe God gave us these bodies to take care of. So I want to take care of it as best as I possibly can. And to me, that comes down to, yeah, what are you putting inside of your body? It's like, what's out there that's growing, what's like natural for our foods. And I don't think that means that you can never have a piece of pie and stuff like that because it doesn't grow. Like I think that there's part of it that's to our enjoyment, but I just think that people really need to take care of themselves and their bodies. And I believe that food for a lot of people is a very emotional thing. You'll hear about stress eating a whole bunch and how that's kind of, I think a lot of people's downfall is that for sure I have experienced that. And so I think it's just the outlook that you have on your kind of on yourself. It's like, let's start, you gotta take care of yourself mentally, you gotta take care of yourself physically. I think it's just a big step in feeling good every day about yourself, sort of. If that does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, totally. And again, you and I talking as often as we do, we really talked about the mental aspect of a lot of this stuff. And whether it's nutrition, training, or like you said, getting up and doing your job, the mental part of it is probably the linchpin or the most crucial piece. Because
Hmm.
when we're checked out mentally, it doesn't matter if we're trying to eat clean, or it doesn't matter if we're trying to get to the gym for our second training session, or we're trying to get to work to do a good job. Once we're checked out mentally, it all just kind of crumbles. So I really like your take on, I want to help people with nutrition, but for me, I'm going to help people starting with the way they perceive nutrition and food, and work on the healthy relationship from a mental aspect.
Yeah.
And then everything will kind of fall into place, is basically what I think you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's great, and I think you're going to do a lot of good things. I'm hoping we're going to still work together and do some stuff
Yeah.
together. That'd be kick ass. Obviously, I work a lot with first responders and stuff, but I would love to have someone on board like you that's working with athletes and stuff like that. That really gets that mentality of training at that level and stuff like that. So I don't know if you guys can see it. She's got a little symbol in her chest, looks very similar to this one. So she's rocking the new silverback athlete shirt. So we're super
Yeah.
proud. We're super proud to have her repping us, and we're excited to see what happens in the semifinals for you, Gabby. So,
Thank
what
you.
any parting words for anybody?
Oh, I don't know. Just yeah, I don't know. I think I said most of my thoughts.
All right. Well, that
Think so.
sounds good. All right. Well, I think we're going to do one more of these, and I think we're going to do it. Kind of the next one's kind of going to be about your training, more specifically to the training.
Cool,
And
yeah,
then we'll do one, after semis and stuff like that, and kind of see where things are at. And
right.
I enjoy these chats. I like putting them out there. I think people can relate to what you're doing. You were a small town Alberta girl that fell in love with the sport, and now you're like on literally on the verge of making it to the CrossFit Games. And I think that's a pretty awesome story. And I
Yeah.
appreciate you letting me do these things and try to get the message out there, and bring some more fan base to you so we can get cheering you on there.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it a lot.
Awesome. All right. Well, Gabby, best of luck in training, and we'll be chatting with you soon.
Yeah, see you later.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.